Hi everyone and welcome to Fresh from My Garden. This is our front porch and we did a little bit of rearrangement of plants and added a little extra decor to our front porch, and today we will be talking about this particular plant, that is the jade plant. It's a really beautiful plant to have in our garden, and today I'm going to share some do's and don'ts for caring for this plant and how to make sure that they grow really beautiful and look really healthy. So before we start this video, if you have been watching our channel regularly, please don't forget to support by subscribing to our channel, and if you are a first time viewer, please do take a look at the other videos on my channel, and please do support us for more gardening related videos. So, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this is a really beautiful plant that we can grow at home, and it's also great to gift to friends and family because this is a very long living plant and it lives for several years with very little care. Jade is a beautiful plant from the succulent family and it has similar requirements as many succulent plants. This is the dwarf jade or the elephant bush, and it is mostly used in bonsai pots to create bonsais. And they have thick woody stems and small tiny leaves that grow or can be pruned to look like a small tree. Now, coming to the light requirements for this beautiful plant. Mostly these plants are purchased to grow as house plants or indoor plants, and when we had purchased them initially, we also placed these plants indoors. But these plants require quite a bit of sunlight and they do well in full direct sunlight or partial sunlight, but the smaller plants require more partial sunlight and the bigger plants can tolerate full sunlight, but they cannot do well indoors for a long time and they will start to die back over a period of time. The amount of sunlight required for this plant is very essential for its growth, and if it does not receive enough direct or filtered sunlight, this plant will not grow, and it is also a quite slow growing plant, and I had to wait for quite some time for this plant to get to this level before I could take a video of these plants. And I have two plants as you can see in my garden, and both of them are growing currently on my front porch. If we would like to grow this plant indoors, then we must make sure that this plant is kept very close to the windows or directly on the windowsill so that it can receive a lot of sunlight. But if it is kept away from windows where it receives very low light conditions, then this plant will not survive and it will die back. Also, placing them indoors for an extended period of time can cause root rot problem. Now, this is one plant that we had kept indoors for an extended period of time and it started losing its leaves and started to die back, and it took a lot of time and effort to bring this plant back to the condition that it is in now. This is a succulent plant and it tends to get root rot very quickly, and when it is kept indoors for a longer period of time, the soil tends to remain damp as it is in a closed atmosphere, and that can cause these plants to get infected with root rot and they can die back very quickly. The soil mixture that I have used for these plants is garden soil with some coco peat and compost. We can also use a succulent potting mix for these plants, but they are not really fussy about the soil as long as it doesn't stay wet for a longer period of time. So make sure that they are planted in a container that has drainage holes, and that they are watered only once the soil is completely dried out. Underwatering or dehydration and also lack of enough light for these plants can cause these plants to shed its leaves very quickly and die back very fast. So, when we are growing this plant at home, these are the two main things that we need to keep in mind: the light that the plant receives for it to grow well, and the watering should be monitored so that it doesn't stay wet and it doesn't develop any root problems. This plant can be easily propagated from stem cuttings and also from leaves. But as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, it's a really slow growing plant and it will take time for these plants to grow even after they are propagated. But with a little bit of patience and some care, this can be a really beautiful addition to our garden, and they can be grown really well if our front porch or our front entrance receives some filtered sunlight at least for 3 to 4 hours in a day. Regular pruning helps this plant get thicker stems and branches, and the cuttings that we take during the pruning time can be propagated into new plants. And these stem cuttings can be easily propagated using some coco peat. So always keep in mind that the jade plant is not an indoor plant and it requires a lot of sunlight so that it can grow well, and even if they are being placed indoors, they should be at the south facing window so that they can receive at least 3 to 4 hours of sunlight in a day. And they should also be watered very carefully so that they don't develop the root rot problem. So, keeping these few tips in mind, we can grow this beautiful plant and also propagate a lot of new plants for our garden and also to gift to friends and family. Hope you liked today's video and the tips that I shared to grow this beautiful plant in your garden useful. Please do keep watching our videos regularly and do support our channel for more gardening related videos. Thanks for watching Fresh from My Garden.